Hello, everyone. Matt Malatesta, Matthew Ogle. This is the sixth rotation volleyball for the city of Houston, the podcast. Okay, we know a lot about volleyball. Okay, I know something about volleyball. Ogle knows a ton about volleyball. Okay, so you know we talk about the same teams over and over. Last week he broke down what he would call as sneakers, some teams that are in the conversation who really could bump up and make a big splash in the playoffs. We're not even done with district, but some other teams that you really like. Let's start with Katie Taylor. I know they're up and down, but give me the vibe on Katie Taylor.
Yes, they're one of those sneaky teams, as I mentioned. The Mustangs, y'all are frustrating sometimes. I mean, y'all are knocking off Seven Lakes, knocking off Tompkins, huge district wins. I just think if y'all can get that consistency down, because y'all had a tough matchup with Katie, and then Jordan's pretty good as well, that you've lost those first two matchups there against them. However, I think if Coach Brooke Plemons, I think you've got those teams, those girls rallied in whenever they need to the most, and y'all got the second round of district coming up. I think if you can get that consistency down with all these key players, you got Julia Porath, you got Ella Randall, Shelby Landry, some really exceptional athletes that seem to like bunker down in the key moments. So if y'all can get that down and take on those teams like Seven Lakes once again, take on Tompkins once again, and take out those smaller teams, you're going to be one to fear once playoffs come around.
Man, volleyball is such a game of momentum. It can be up, and then it can be down, and then your defense could fall apart, and then your serve receive can be bad. But it does take a lot of momentum to win a five-setter, because it's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of ebb and flows to a match, especially if you go to a five-set. So it's kind of hard to stay locked in for that long. Anyways, okay, another team near and dear to my heart is College Park, right down the street from the Woodlands High School. They're always compared to Grand Oaks, who won state, the Woodlands, who's also won state. But this year, Coach Katie Collins has got a loaded team, and what I do like is they've got a really good center in Caroline Prahota. They got an elite defender in Morgan Madison. She's headed to Baylor. And then they got a big middle in Lacey Tennell. She's also going to Baylor as well. So they have the pieces. What is it going to take for College Park to really punch through the glass ceiling and make a deep run in the postseason?
Well, I think it speaks to the depth of this group, because as you mentioned, they got Tennell, Morgan Madison, fantastic. Prehota's great. They also have a few younger girls, a girl named Sadie Kendrick, who's contributed, a girl named Reese Ellen, who's had some key contributions as well. I think with the matchups they've won so far, which include Oak Ridge, Bridgeland, took out Willis. Willis is kind of underestimated every now and then. I think they provide a scrappy game. College Park, y'all lost a close one to Grand Oaks. Five-setter, as we talked about. Those are very tough. But the fact that y'all stayed in it indicates, I think, that you have the potential to exceed the expectations, because you compete in easily the toughest district in the state. Because, as we mentioned, the Woodlands, Grand Oaks, and Willis, they can provide a lot of great competition. I think what's going to take is being able to have that longevity, because it's clear y'all are able to make it to five sets. It's just that you need to finish. And as you mentioned, Coach Candace Collins Gibson, she knows how to fire those girls up. And I think once they get into that second round of the district play, and then hopefully the postseason coming up, she'll be able to light a fire under their butts, and they'll be able to make some noise in the postseason.
Yeah, it is another team that kind of gets hit by that, not complacency, but just not super consistent. This is a team that beat Stratford. Stratford's the number one team in the city. They beat Stratford, so they can play, and they've got, I think their hitting is can be inconsistent, but they're always going to be amazing on defense, and the middle is good too. So I like them. Another team, traditional power in volleyball. A lot of times they get overlooked by their district mates, but the Bridgeland Bears have some height and athleticism. Tell me about Bridgeland.
Well, you know I love me some Bridgeland. They got the same color scheme as my alma mater at Sam Houston, so that kind of initially attracted me. But
Blah, blah, blah.
blah blah blah. But yes, they compete in another competitive district as well. We mentioned we got Cy Ranch in that one. Last week we talked about Cy Woods. Waller's in that district. They can always be a threat. However, Bridgeland, as you mentioned, they're traditional power. Alice VYPE, she's gone. She was really the one that held down that defensive line. But they got a lot of stars too now. I mean, Rebecca Pfefferkorn, she's the leader in kills.
Pfefferkorn.
Pfefferkorn. That's got to be like a Halloween treat or something. They would be like Pfeffer candy corn, something like that.
That's a great name.
Then Justice Rochelle, Alexis Couch, and Kennedy Boatman. They've got all these key pieces. I love to say that for some reason, key pieces. But Coach Verena Khalil, she's got a very deep group, which I think is what is necessary to excel in Houston and much further in the state of Texas. But they've got some interesting matchups heading up into this season. Obviously, Cy Ranch, Cy Woods, that's in the near future. But they've taken down some teams very early. They had a very productive tournament season, I feel. They took down Cinco Ranch. They took down Dawson. And more recently, they took down Waller and Houston Memorial, which I think is another sleeper. The fact of that is if they can find a way to play up to the competition, because Cy Ranch is going to be a tough one. If they can find a way to take some valuable knowledge and memories of what it feels like to compete at a high level like that, that's going to be very productive for them in the next coming month.
One of the best player in the history of Houston area volleyball was Batenhorst. Here's the deal. Allie Batenhorst is the greatest player in the city of Houston as long as VYPE has been around, okay? She played at Seven Lakes. She went to state championship, and she was dominant. 6'4", just super talent. She goes to Nebraska. Nebraska, as we know, is like Alabama football is to volleyball. Nebraska is. Mm-hmm. She plays there. She has a tremendous career there. She graduates, and then she transfers and portals to USC. Well, if you're watching anything on TikTok about her, she comes back to Nebraska, okay? And these girls are still best of friends. So she is like weeping. They introduce her, Nebraska, the team introduced, or the MC guy introduces her, and the crowd is going ballistic. They fly into the airport. On the airport side, it says, "Welcome home, Allie." They still love her there. But which is really cool is to see the power of kind of girl power. That might sound corny, but that group is still very connected. Even though they play each other, she plays at USC and they travel to Nebraska, they still got so much love for Allie Batenhorst, which is really cool to see. And that's just kind of a testament to volleyball. Volleyball is going to be the next pro women's sport. It already is a pro sport. The WNBA is great. There's so much drama, as we know. Watch out for professional volleyball. And there's so many kids from the city of Houston that are going that way and playing in professional volleyball and going to Europe and making a bunch of money to do it. It's awesome. Molly McCage, she was a Klein Collins, former cover girl. Emily Graham played at College Park, plays in professional volleyball. There's probably 20 girls. So it's kind of cool to see the sport and how it kind of brings people together, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But it was really cool to see Allie Batenhorst have a tremendous homecoming to Nebraska this week. Okay, final thoughts on volleyball. Do we have any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of the powers, I just released the rankings. There really isn't that much change. I mean, in private school, LSA and FBCA are about to play each other. I think that's going to be really instrumental towards the overall outlook towards TAPS 5A. Of course, got to beat Prestonwood Christian down the line. That's going to be a tall task, but I think in terms of initial bragging rights, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. By the time this is released, they probably have already played, but they're going to play each other once again down the line, and I am really excited to see that.
All right, so this is Matt Malatesta, Matthew Ogle. This is the Sixth Rotation, Houston's greatest volleyball podcast in the history of volleyball podcasts in the city of Houston. We're the only one. We're one of one. Thank you very much. All right, we'll see y'all. Follow us on all of our social media channels and like, subscribe on YouTube so we can keep this bad boy going. See you at the games.